Oh, hello.
Greetings.
Have you ever played a game that was so good that the moment it finished you wanted more? Or have you ever wanted to create your own chapter of the game and share it with the world? Many games are so good that they stand the test of time, but I feel like a lot of these that do also have some form of modding community, giving creative capabilities to people like you, the fans, into creating your own content to keep the game alive. But if a game is really good but has no modding support whatsoever, does it diminish itself? And does its lifespan run out sooner? Today I wanted to look into something a little different by looking into whether games that allow modding support and community creation stand the test of time better than games that do not. And in many cases, instead have things like microtransactions and battle passes. Also, this is an excuse to look at some games along the way that offer awesome mods and creation tools, and to celebrate them a little bit because why not? So, strap yourselves in because we're going to be looking at some mod friendly, creation companiony video games. Some of the most heavily modded games that have had a long lasting appeal are from first person shooters, starting with the big daddy of them all, Doom, spawning a plethora of mods and user created add ons for more than 30 years, as well as the likes of Quake, Quake 2, and of course, Half Life. From launch, Half Life came with its world builder, Worldcraft, that allowed you to create your own maps to play with by yourself or to share with the world in the exciting new time of the internet.
What a time to be alive.
I played a bit with Worldcraft, creating and testing out building things, like little office spaces, trying to recreate my house but failing miserably, or testing out triggering a scripted sequence. It kind of introduced me to soft programming in a way, in a very user-friendly way, and I can see how these tools would make people want to take it a step further and play around with modifying the game and pushing its limits. The most amount of modding that I've done is replace voice files with my own dumb voice. As mentioned in a previous video, which if I edit this correctly, should show a link right about now. I talked about how some Half-Life mods even came in demo discs and sometimes in other games like Counter-Strike. And speaking of, Counter-Strike is probably one of the most successful mods ever made. The other one of course being Gary's mod for Half-Life 2, which has grown so big it became its own thing for a long time now. The game itself is creative enough, allowing for a sandbox type of gameplay, but the user-created content is seemingly limitless, and it's easy to see why Gmod has been so popular all this time. Real-time strategy games also allowed for building your own levels, including detailed single-player scenarios, or making maps for skirmish or multiplayer. Red Alert had a really fun and relatively easy to use map editor, as well as Command & Conquer Generals, which, with the introduction of 3D, allowed for more detailed terrain mapping. StarCraft also had an extensive map editor, complete with if and or programming clauses, and specific parameters. The editor was very detailed. Age of Empires 2 had a similar level of complexity in its editor as well. I remember adding way too many things on screen, which my Pentium 3 could not handle, abusing my power and turning the game into a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, I've made this joke before, but here it is again.
What the?
On top of having level editors, a lot of the RTS games also have an extensive amount of mods as well, made even more accessible now with the Steam Workshop as well. So far, a lot of the examples are fully fledged games that offer mod and editing support. But let's take a look at a few that were made for user creation from the get-go. Super Mario Maker is an example where the entire game was made to be a level editor, to allow the player to create and build their own levels, as well as play other people's creations, based on the legendary Super Mario Bros. Games. Super Mario Maker allowed you to create and play your own levels based off of Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, and New Super Mario Bros. U, giving you the chance to do what Nintendo don't. And this was a game that I had been waiting for since I was a little kid. No joke. I bought a Wii U just for this game. Well, I mean, you gotta get Smash and Mario Kart too. And this broke my Nintendo console drought, as the last Nintendo console I had before the Wii U was the Super Nintendo. Having been solely a game for making and sharing creations, Super Mario Maker had a wonderful community, with lots of very creative levels, many of which were levels that you would never see in an official Mario game, while others were a bit more, well, trolling, or whatever this is. Not all created levels were great, but the majority were, and I really enjoyed that sense of connection when sharing and playing levels, as you could see their little avatars and which country they were from. It was super fun to have this level of community, and to see which countries produce the most sadistic levels. I spent hours making levels, it was therapeutic, and sharing them with the world was deeply satisfying. The game became so successful that a sequel was released on the Switch, which of course I promptly obtained, along with Smash and Mario Kart. Again, the games don't offer any modding support that I'm aware of, because, well, it's Nintendo, on a Nintendo console, but also because the entire game was creative to begin with. It had some Nintendo-made challenges in the game, but the main purpose of the game was to create, share, and play other people's levels. Finally, in a similar vein, we have Mega Man Maker, which is also exclusively for creating and sharing levels, only this time it's a fan project. Originally called Mega Maker, the only feedback Capcom gave was renaming it to Mega Man Maker, so you knew it was exclusively about Mega Man. And the fact that Capcom not only greenlit it, but loved it, is amazing. Not every company would be like that regarding fan projects. Anyway, Mega Man Maker works in a similar way to Super Mario Maker, in which you have the level making tools at your disposal to create fun and interesting stages, and also share them with the world. Unlike Super Mario Maker, however, there are no tile limits or enemy placement limits. You could literally make an entire Metroidvania game in Mega Man Maker. It's nuts how much freedom you have. But with great power comes great responsibility, for you see, the same ability that allows you to create intricate and wonderful things also gives you the ability to create the 10th circle of hell. The game is receiving updates at least yearly, and also offers mod support to an extent. It's a great example of a game from a beloved IP, made directly by the fans, for the fans, and keeping the Blue Bomber alive more than Capcom has in recent years. I can't believe Mega Man 11 came out almost 7 years ago now.
Don't bullshit me.
So, we had a look at a few different level editing and mod creation tools, but how do they compare to games that don't have them? Of course, it would be unfair to compare them to games on, say, 8 and 16-bit consoles. But what about games available on PC from more recent times? Now, one could argue that games like Super Mario Maker and Mega Man Maker are niche games that are in no way competing against games like Call of Duty. But how does mod-friendly Half-Life or Doom compare with, say, modern Call of Duty? Anyone remember the arcade mode in Far Cry 5? It was heaps of fun, and it gave the game longevity as you could play user-made maps after beating the main game. The first user-made map I played was a loose recreation of Nakatomi Plaza from Die Hard, and from there I was immediately hooked. The amount of creative stages in this was heaps of fun, so much so that I'm baffled that they didn't bring this back for Far Cry 6. Unless a game has an extensive multiplayer, it's great when there's something like a level editor or mod support to keep the games going, or DLC, which leads me to my final point, and that is regarding games like Call of Duty, once again, that not only have microtransactions and all that jazz, but don't allow mod support to their games. On the one hand, it's so that they can create their own high-quality content, but on the other hand, I feel like without proper mod support or community participation, the game's lifespans shorten significantly, having players forget about it and move on to the next game. And with the fact that there have been as many Call of Duties as, I don't know, the amount of times I say mod in this video, it makes me think it's done this way intentionally, so people just buy the latest new title, even if the new additions feel like DLC instead of a brand new game.
Don't be fooled! She's just a regular
Call of Duty.
with a stupid cheap hat! She still embodies all the awful stereotypes she did before!
But she's got a new hat.
It's no surprise that the last modded Call of Duty game, at least on ModDB, is the first Black Ops, and even then there aren't a large number of mods for this game either. Of course, not every game needs mod support or a level editor. In fact, a lot of story-rich single-player games or indie titles I wouldn't think need them, as you feel satisfied after finishing them. But I still feel like big company games, especially those with some form of multiplayer, could benefit from mod support for at least single-player, and some form of server customization for multiplayer. Remember that custom server for the original Modern Warfare, where you could play Shipment, a map designed for maybe 12 players max, with 32 players, and it would be absolutely chaotic. Of course, not everyone would want that, but the fact that you could choose to was fun. Interestingly enough, in an unexpected twist of fate, EA have recently released the source code for most of the Command & Conquer games, meaning that people can now mod even moddier mods, allowing them to mod even more titles and have their creations directly published to the Steam Workshop, which I think is fantastic. And from these guys of all people, well actually this man right here, thank you Luke. It's great to see this level of support, even for games that are older than some generations, and it makes me honestly think that this level of support for modding and creating new expansions has a much larger staying power than releasing a game with multiple microtransactions that will become irrelevant in just 2 years. I mean, the fact that we're still playing Doom, I think just says it all. I think if you release a game that's awesome and becomes beloved, it will last for a long time. And if that said game comes with the tools for the players to make their own creations and share them with the world, then I think that game will last for eternity. Valve recently released a software development kit for Team Fortress 2, so that's going to make it last for another decade or two. Also, there are a large number of sex mods, what the fuck? So, with that all said and done, I do think that the community does in fact keep video games alive. Thank you so much for watching. What are some of your favorite mods of games with level editors? And have any of you created your own mods or levels? I was never too savvy when it came to modding, but I did play a bit with level editors and world builders. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see me cover next. Don't be shy to hit like if you like this video, or subscribe if you want to see more, or check out another one of my videos. Thank you again, and I will see you all in the next one. Share it with the world, share with the world, sharing them with the world, share them with the world, share them with the world, modding mods, modded mods, modifying, modding mods, mod, modding mods, Again.